I didn't find out my marriage was over from a hidden text message. I found out on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. When I saw the emergency house key I gave my brother, sitting perfectly center on my wife's nightstand. My name is Mark. I am 38 years old. I work as a civil engineer in Ohio. I build foundations for a living. I like things that make sense. Things you can measure and test. Steel, concrete, load-bearing walls. If you do the math right, the structure stands forever. I thought my life was built the same way. I thought I had done the math. I am not a loud man. I don't need to be the center of attention. I value quiet evenings. I value loyalty. I value knowing that when I lock my front door, the world stays outside. For 9 years, my wife Sarah was my world. She is 35. She works in human resources. When we met, she told me she loved my calm. She said she was tired of drama, tired of unpredictable men. She wanted a safe harbor, and I was more than happy to be that for her. We had a good life, a nice house in the suburbs, 2 cars, a shared bank account, no big fights, no screaming matches, just a quiet, predictable rhythm. I thought that meant we were happy. I thought silence meant peace. I didn't realize silence could also be a hiding place. To understand what happened, you need to understand my family, or what's left of it. My younger brother, Leo, is 29. We are 9 years apart. Our dad walked out when Leo was just a baby. Our mom worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. So I practically raised him. I made sure he did his homework. I taught him how to drive. I bailed him out when he made mistakes. And Leo made a lot of mistakes. Leo is everything I am not. He is loud. He is charismatic. He is the life of the party. People naturally gravitate toward him. But he never could hold down a job. He never could keep a relationship together. He was always chasing the next big thrill. 8 months ago, Leo hit rock bottom. He lost his apartment. He lost his job at a car dealership. His girlfriend kicked him out. He called me at 2 in the morning, crying in his car. He had nowhere to go. I did what I always do. I fixed it. I told him he could stay in our guest house. It's a converted garage behind our main house. It has its own bathroom and a small kitchen. I told him he could stay for 3 months, just until he got back on his feet. Before I offered it to him, I asked Sarah. At first, she was hesitant. She said Leo was too chaotic. She said she liked our privacy. But a few days later, she suddenly changed her mind. She told me family is family. She said we had the space, so we should help. I thought she was just being a supportive wife. I kissed her forehead and thanked her. I didn't know I was thanking her for opening the door to my own destruction. The first 2 months were fine. Leo kept to himself mostly. He started looking for work. He came over for dinner on Sundays. Everything felt manageable. But slowly, the boundaries started to blur. I work long hours, often 50 to 60 hours a week. Sometimes I have to visit construction sites in other cities. I started noticing small changes when I came home. The brand of coffee in our pantry changed. Sarah started buying the dark roast, the exact brand Leo drinks. When I asked her about it, she just shrugged. She said it was on sale. Then, she started dressing differently. Nothing crazy, just putting in more effort. Wearing makeup on a Tuesday evening when she worked from home. Wearing the perfume I bought her for our anniversary, just to sit on the back porch. The porch that faces the guest house. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I was just stressed from work. Sarah was my wife. Leo was my brother. The kid I taught how to ride a bike. They were the 2 people I trusted most in this world. But last Thursday, everything changed. I came home early because a concrete pour got rained out. It was 2 in the afternoon. The house was quiet. I walked into the kitchen to grab a glass of water. I looked out the window toward the guest house. The blinds were drawn, but Sarah's car was in the driveway, and the back door to the main house was wide open. I walked outside. The air was perfectly still. As I stepped onto the grass, I heard a laugh. It came from inside the guest house. It was Sarah's laugh, but it wasn't her polite, everyday laugh. It was the deep, breathless laugh. The one she used to save only for me. The one she made when we were alone in the dark. I stopped breathing. I stood frozen in my own backyard, staring at the closed door of the guest house. And then, I heard my brother's voice. I heard my brother's voice. It wasn't loud. It was a low, familiar murmur. The kind of voice you use when the rest of the world is asleep. I stepped closer to the window. My boots made no sound on the grass. My heart was hammering against my ribs. But my mind went completely cold, like pouring concrete in winter. I didn't look through the blinds. I didn't need to. Because Leo spoke again. You have to tell him, Sarah. My name wasn't mentioned, but I knew exactly who he meant. Then her voice, soft, hesitant. I will. I just need time. It's been almost 3 months, Leo replied. 3 months. My brother had been living in my yard for 4, and for 3 of them, they had been laughing behind my back. A normal man might have kicked the door in. A normal man might have thrown punches, broken furniture, screamed until his throat bled. But I am an engineer. When a structure is failing, you don't hit it with a hammer. You step back. You assess the damage, and you figure out how to dismantle it safely. I backed away from the guest house, one slow step at a time. I walked back into the main house. I grabbed my keys off the kitchen counter, and I left. I drove to a diner 2 towns over. I sat in a vinyl booth for 4 hours. I ordered a black coffee that I never drank. My hands were shaking, not from anger, from the sheer scale of the lie. Sarah didn't just cheat on me. She cheated on me with the boy I raised, the kid whose scraped knees I bandaged, the man whose debts I paid. They didn't just betray my marriage. They betrayed my entire life's work. At 6 o'clock, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. Hey honey, running late at the office. Want me to pick up dinner? Running late at the office. She worked from home on Thursdays. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. It made me sick to my stomach. I typed back. Sure. Pizza sounds good. When I finally pulled into my driveway at 7, the house looked exactly the same. The lawn was neatly mowed. The porch light was on. It looked like the American dream, but it was just a painted corpse. I walked inside. Sarah was in the kitchen. She was wearing a different shirt than she had on at 2 o'clock. Her hair was wet. I took a quick shower, she said, smiling. Traffic was awful today. She walked over and kissed my cheek. She smelled like her expensive perfume. And underneath that, she smelled like him. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I looked her dead in the eyes. How was your day? I asked. My voice was perfectly level. Stressful, she sighed. Just back-to-back meetings. I barely had time to breathe. She turned around to open the pizza box, and as she reached for a slice, her sleeve pulled back. Just an inch. But it was enough. Around her wrist was a braided leather bracelet. It was dark brown, worn out at the edges. I recognized it instantly, because I bought it for Leo 5 years ago. He never took it off. Until today, I stared at the bracelet on my wife's wrist. And in that moment, the sadness evaporated. The shock faded away, and something else took its place. Something very cold and very patient. She handed me a slice of pizza. Everything okay, Mark? She asked. Her eyes were wide and innocent. Everything is perfect, I said. But as I took a bite of the food she bought with my money, I knew my marriage was over, and my brother's free ride was about to crash. For the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost in my own life. I woke up. I kissed my wife's cheek. I went to work. I came home, and I watched. Once you know a structure is compromised, you see the cracks everywhere. The way she laughed a little too loud at Leo's jokes during Sunday dinner. The way Leo's eyes lingered on her when she walked out of a room. The casual brushes of their shoulders in the kitchen. To anyone else, it looked like family. To me, it looked like a demolition site. I didn't confront them. Confrontation gives a liar a chance to pivot, to manipulate, to call you crazy. I didn't want arguments. I wanted data. On a Tuesday, Sarah told me she was going out with her girlfriends. Leo was supposedly at a job interview. I left work early. I bought 3 small, voice-activated recorders. Black, discreet, battery-operated. I taped one under the coffee table in the guest house. I slipped one behind the books on the shelf. And the last one, I placed deep under the passenger seat of Sarah's car. I felt sick doing it, like a criminal in my own home. But trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. For 3 days, I left them alone. I needed them to get comfortable. I needed the truth. On Friday night, Sarah went to sleep early. I went out to the garage. I retrieved the recorder from her car. I sat in the dark at my workbench. I plugged in my headphones, and I pressed play. The first hour was just road noise. The radio playing softly, the hum of the engine. But then, the car door opened, and I heard Leo's voice. You're sure he doesn't suspect anything? Sarah sighed. A heavy, annoyed sound. Mark doesn't notice anything. He just cares about his dirt and concrete. I closed my eyes. The casual cruelty in her voice felt like a physical blow. Good, Leo laughed. Because I can't stay in that tiny shoebox much longer. Just be patient, Sarah murmured. Her voice was dangerously soft. His promotion comes through next month. If he gets the regional director spot. She paused. We'll have enough to put a down payment on our own place. Half his savings, Leo. We just need to hold out until his annual bonus hits the joint account. My eyes snapped open in the dark garage. It wasn't just an affair. It was an extraction plan. My own brother. My wife of 9 years. They weren't just stabbing me in the back. They were calculating the exact angle to empty my wallet. I sat there in the silence. The static of the recording buzzing in my ears. They thought I was stupid. They thought I was just a boring, predictable ATM. They thought they had outsmarted the quiet guy. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app. I stared at the joint account balance. $84,000. 10 years of my sweat. 10 years of skipped vacations and 60-hour weeks. They wanted my money. They wanted my life. But they forgot one crucial detail about what I do for a living. I built the foundation of this house, and I knew exactly which support beams to kick out to make the whole thing collapse. Monday morning, I didn't drive to the construction site. I called my foreman. I told him I was taking a personal day. Then, I drove downtown to a tall, glass building. I sat in a leather chair across from a family law attorney named Vance. I didn't cry. I didn't vent. I just handed him a small USB drive with the audio files. And I laid out the blueprints of my marriage. Vance told me exactly what I needed to hear. The house was in my name. I bought it 3 years before I ever met Sarah. The joint account was a risk. But the upcoming bonus was entirely mine, as long as I routed it correctly before it was deposited. I left Vance's office with a stack of drafted papers and a timeline. My next stop was the bank. I opened a new, private account, one with no paper statements sent to the house. Then, I sat with the HR manager at my company. I changed my direct deposit, my regular paycheck, and my upcoming $60,000 bonus would no longer drop into the joint account. They would go straight to a vault Sarah didn't know existed. But the hardest part wasn't the paperwork. The hardest part was going home. For 3 weeks, I had to play the fool. If a structure is going to fall exactly where you want it to, you can't rush the demolition. You have to let the concrete cure. That night, I walked into the kitchen. Sarah was making pasta. Leo was sitting at the island, drinking one of my beers. I smiled. A wide, genuine-looking smile. I got news today, I said. They both looked at me. The regional director's spot, I announced. It's mine. Sarah dropped her wooden spoon. She ran across the kitchen and threw her arms around my neck. Oh my God, Mark. I'm so proud of you. She kissed me. It took every ounce of my physical willpower not to push her away, not to wipe my mouth. Leo stood up and clapped me hard on the shoulder. Way to go, bro. You deserve it. Thanks, Leo, I said. I looked right into his eyes. It comes with a massive bonus. Hits the account on the 30th. I watched the micro expressions on their faces. A quick, subtle glance between my wife and my brother. A spark of pure, selfish greed. They thought they had crossed the finish line. They thought the heist was successful. For the next 20 days, I played the perfect husband. I bought Sarah roses on a random Tuesday. I helped Leo format his resume for jobs he was never going to apply for. I sat on the couch and watched movies with them, laughing at the right moments. And every time they left the house, I quietly packed away the things that mattered to me. Family heirlooms. Important documents. I moved them into a small storage unit across town, just to make the extraction clean. It was agonizing, listening to them whisper in the guest house when they thought I was asleep. Knowing every "I love you" from my wife was just a calculated transaction. But I kept my eyes on the calendar. Finally, the 30th arrived. A Friday. The day the bonus was supposed to hit the joint account. The day they planned to drain it and run. I woke up early. I kissed Sarah on the forehead while she was half asleep. I drove to work. At exactly 9 a.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from my private bank app. The bonus had cleared. I opened our joint account app next. I transferred exactly 50% of our shared savings over to my new account, leaving her exactly her legal half of what we built together. Not a single penny more. Then, I sent a group text to Sarah and Leo. Let's celebrate tonight. Dress nice. I'm picking up steaks. When I pulled into my driveway at 5 o'clock, I didn't bring groceries. I brought 2 thick, manila envelopes, and the absolute certainty that this was the last time I would ever call this place a home. I walked into the kitchen. They were both dressed up. Sarah was wearing a black dress. Leo was wearing a crisp button-down shirt, one I had bought him for his birthday. They looked like they were ready for a celebration. They looked like they had won. I set the 2 thick manila envelopes on the granite island. Where are the stakes? Leo asked, frowning. Change of plans, I said. My voice was perfectly steady. We need to go over some paperwork first. I slid the first envelope across the counter to Sarah. I slid the second one to Leo. What is this, Mark? Sarah asked. She let out a nervous, breathy little laugh. Open it, I said. Sarah pulled the metal tab. She slid out the thick stack of papers. The first page had the heavy blue stamp of the county family court. Her eyes scanned the bold print at the top. Petition for dissolution of marriage. All the color drained from her face. She looked up at me. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Leo tore his envelope open next. It was a formal 30-day notice of eviction. Signed, notarized, and legally binding. Mark, what are you doing? Sarah whispered. Her hands were shaking so badly the papers rustled. I don't understand. Check your bank app, Sarah, I said gently. Check the joint account. She practically dropped the papers. She snatched her phone off the counter and unlocked it. Leo leaned over her shoulder, his eyes wide. I watched their faces as the screen loaded. They were looking for $140,000. Instead, they found $42. Where is it? Leo blurted out. He didn't even try to hide the panic in his voice. Where's the bonus? Where's the rest of the savings? My bonus, I corrected him, is in a secure account, under my name only. I looked back at my wife. You have exactly half of what we saved together, Sarah. That's what the law requires. Not a single penny more. You can't do this, she cried out. The polite, loving mask was completely gone now. Her face twisted into something desperate and ugly. We are married. That money belongs to us. I didn't argue. I just reached into my jacket pocket. I pulled out the small, black voice recorder. I set it on the granite counter, right next to her divorce papers, and I pressed the play button. The kitchen went dead silent. And then, Sarah's own voice filled the room. Half his savings, Leo. We just need to hold out until his annual bonus hits. I pressed stop. The silence that followed was suffocating. Sarah stared at the little black device. She looked like she was going to be sick. Leo took a step back, running a nervous hand through his hair. Mark, bro, he started. Don't, I said. The word cracked through the room like a whip. Don't call me bro. You have 30 days to get your trash out of my guest house. If you set foot in this main house again, I will have you arrested for trespassing. I turned to Sarah. The house is in my name. I bought it before we met. My lawyer assures me you have no claim to it. I paused. You can pack a bag for tonight. You can stay in a hotel. You can stay in the guest house with him. I don't care. Mark, please, she sobbed. Tears were streaming down her face. She reached out to grab my arm. It was a mistake. We didn't mean it. I love you. I looked at the woman I had spent 9 years with. I looked at the brother I had practically raised. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel heartbreak. I just felt empty. You didn't make a mistake, Sarah, I said quietly. You made a blueprint. I just tore it up. I picked up my car keys. I walked out the front door. I left them standing in the kitchen, surrounded by the rubble of their own design. I drove to a hotel downtown. I checked into a quiet room on the top floor. I stood by the window, looking out over the city lights. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. The lawyers, the packing, the endless, exhausting questions from family. It takes time to clear the wreckage. It takes time to pour a new foundation. But as I stood there in the dark, for the first time in months, I finally felt like I could breathe. The old structure was gone, but I am an engineer, and I know how to rebuild.